Are you serious? Are you serious? All right. Joining me right now is L.A. Marzulli. L.A., great to see you tonight.
Well, great to see you, Pastor Paul. Always good to see you, and it's always better in person. But that
It is.
hopefully will come later on this year, maybe.
Yes, you look good and everything. And so sorry for hitting the wrong button. Cancel that. I started it and canceled it. So what's up with that? Anyway, let me put a quick shout out for noblegoldinvestment.com, www.noblegoldinvestment.com. Guys, look at your 401k. I've been telling you for 2 years what was going to happen. It's eroded. But some of you heard the message and you transferred some of your 401k out of the stock market into gold. Guess what? You didn't lose 40%. Those of you who have, it's not over. Take a look at going forward. It's the next 2-3 years, the Biden administration, you know what's going to happen. Okay. If not the Great Reset. So transfer some money. If you've got some savings, retirement, whatever, put some of that in gold before the U.S. currency drops at bottom next. Okay. Anyway, noblegoldinvestment.com. That's www.noblegoldinvestment.com. L.A. Marzulli, my great friend. I mean, I just love you, L.A. I remember we've been in a lot of conferences together.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
One of my favorite was you, me, and Russ Dizdar in Baton Rouge. Great conference.
I mean, lightning strikes the bayou. Doesn't get better than that. That was a great conference, and boy, I know you miss Russ. We all miss him. You know, that shouldn't have happened.
No, that was. I really think that's the enemy. You know, just coming after us. Every one of us, one way or the other.
I agree.
Definitely Russ and Shelley left before their time.
Yeah, definitely. And Russ was moving into his prime.
Yep.
I mean, there's just
he really was.
Yeah, he was just coming into his prime as an author, a speaker, a lecturer. His whole ministry was exploding, and the enemy comes to rob, kill, and destroy, and that's exactly what happened. So,
well, folks, LA's with us tonight. Real quick, now we have got a horrible news before we get into a conversation with LA here, but there's been a massive shooting, another school shooting, this one down Robb Elementary down in Texas, about 85 miles outside of San Antonio, where I should say that's the high school that the kid that was 18 for some reason drove all 85 miles to another elementary school and went in and killed 14 kids, one teacher. He's dead also, but the hospital is reporting there's more dead and multiple shots. So I don't know what the numbers are yet. It's a very fluid situation. We don't know why he did it, but it's the devil. I'll tell you that.
It's the face of evil.
So please pray for the families, pray for these parents, pray for everybody down there. It's just, God help us. And of course, the media and the Biden administration will probably use this to go after the Second Amendment again every time. So, but don't worry. I think that that's pretty rock solid, and the Supreme Court's pretty rock solid. So, anyway, LA, tell us what's going on. You know, you're busy as I've never seen anybody. Nobody does more. I thought I was the hardest working preacher out there, but no, it's L.A. Marzulli. So tell us, L.A., what's been going on? You're in California again. You're looking
back
great.
In California. We just released the second film in our UFO series. It's called This is like the book, 70-year-old cover up. But the second film is free on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli. You can go and watch it for free. Open up any of our YouTube shows, whatever, and just open up the text box right below. Scroll down, you'll see UFO film number 1, number 2. Number 2 is, which I find interesting, is the expert witnesses weigh in, or the experts weigh in, excuse me, not witnesses. The experts weigh in. Francisco Carrero from Exopolitics Portugal and Preston Dennett. Both of these guys have been immersed in the UFO phenomenon literally for decades. So, I mean, they're kind of like, the three of us get together and we're just talking shop. And we have one guy that comes on the record. His name is Paul, who was down in Miami, and he reports this incredible encounter with a UFO. And we did some CGI with that. And hats off to our new associate in the film series, Gil Zimmerman, who's come alongside me. Gil used to work for Disney and been in Hollywood for 30 years. He's best known for his directing work, How to Tame Your Dragon, number 3. So he left the film industry because of what's going on there. He just couldn't be part of it. as a born-again, spirit-filled Christian. So we welcome him, to the show, and he's gonna, polishing the shows, making them better. So number 2 is free. 1 and 2 is free right on my YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are in the can. We're actually in post-production on that, and more about that in the future. But we are on the 9th rung of the ladder of disclosure, the 9th rung of a disclosure ladder, and going up. And if you want, we can talk about that. If not, no worries.
So the UFO disclosed is a free film that's over on your YouTube channel, right?
Correct. Yes.
But you're getting ready to make. There's going to be 9. There's going to be 8 more sequels.
Well, we're on what I meant by the 9th rung of a disclosure ladder. And that sounds confusing, but what I mean is the first rung was Commander David Fravor on Tucker Carlson show in 2017.
I remember that.
Whatever this UFO was, it was not from this Earth. So then it goes up from there. The second rung would be Luis Elizondo on Tucker saying that the United States government has metal from crashed UFOs. The third rung is Christopher Mellon stating that we've tested the metal. Isotopes found in the metal are not from this Earth. The fourth rung is the Pentagon stating on the record that we have in our possession off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. The fifth rung is last year in June when the official UFO report came out, 9 pages, right? But we've got 1,000 pages on the effect of cow flatulence on greenhouse gases. It's like, but we get 9 pages on UFOs.
Yeah.
Total nothing burger. That was number, what was that? That was number 5. Number 6. Yeah, number 6 rung on the disclosure ladder would be when Tucker Carlson, when NASA, never a straight answer. NASA, it comes out, but they're recruiting priests to discuss. Yeah, they're recruiting priests to discuss what happens if these guys show up. How are we going to, tell our congregants who these entities are?
Which I've been hearing you. I've heard your
for decades.
For decades. And I've personally heard you speak 15 times on that subject. You always bring it up is when they show up, now what? If we don't tell the people in the church, now what? And so NASA brings in, I think they were 13 priests, and good number, and they bring them in and they're teaching them, tell us, what should we say? What do we say to the aliens? Tell us, what do we say? And what are you going to say to the congregations? So it's like they heard what you were saying, LA, and they're trying to get ahead of us.
Well, I mean, one would assume so, but the thing is, it's from NASA. And, most pastors are still completely silent on the subject.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of great pastors out there. Right. Folks, you need to tell your pastor about this. You need to show him these free films that we did. They're on YouTube. That's why they're free. That's your primer. Our films number 3, 4, 5, and 6 or whatever will not be free. We got to make a living here. So the 6th rung on the disclosure ladder is NASA. The 7th rung on the disclosure ladder. And when I saw this, I fell out of my chair. Bret Baier on Fox News had a bizarre report from Bret Baier. It's not bizarre at all. They couch it that way.
Right.
Basically, the Freedom of Information Act that was released, it took 5 years to get the information. But when they got it, they discovered that there were women taken aboard UFOs who became pregnant. Now, I've been saying that for decades. That's in my wheelhouse. They are creating hybrid entities, part so-called alien, but it's not alien. If we go to the book of Daniel, it says their seed. Whose seed? Well, the seed of a dragon. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. The word cleave from Jim Williamson's work, Beyond Science Fiction, great book, by the way. Williamson says that word cleave is the same word that we get in a Genesis marriage contract. But a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Well, there is, but will not cleave to them in the book of Daniel. There is no marriage. They're just taking the women, impregnating the women, taking sperm from the men, creating these hybrid entities or hybrids, whatever you want to call them. But they are, in fact, modern day Nephilim. Remember, Jesus warns us that it'll be like the days of Noah. It's all coming down. It's no longer L.A. Marzulli, Mr. Conspiracy Theory with the tinfoil hat. We're not talking. This is Bret Baier, Fox News.
That's right.
Reporting. Women are taken aboard UFOs and becoming pregnant. That's number 7. Number 8 is Tucker Carlson talking to two professional butchers, examining the cattle mutilation phenomenon, and saying, whoever's doing this, it's not predators, it's not a satanic cult. They're doing this with laser-like precision. We broached that subject in our very first Watchers film, which was released in 2012, for crying out loud. That's 10 years ago. And then you go back 22 years ago when I released my first book, Nephilim, which is a fictional work. But I talked about cattle mutilations there. So there's nothing new. It's just that they're rolling it out. The ninth rung on the ladder of disclosure, which just came out, which, of course, last week, Congress was discussing UFOs, which I predicted will be a nothing burger. And, of course, it was a big nothing burger. But the fact that Congress is discussing the validity of the UFO phenomena in all of its different parts, at least in some of its parts, should be a wake-up call. Unfortunately, for the most part, it's not.
You know, when you talked about, I remember being with you, we were having a little fun here, but you and I got a tip, and we were hoping there was going to be a great discovery for you out there in Tonopah, Nevada. Anyway, we went. You never know. LA.
You gotta follow the lead.
Gotta follow the lead. So anyway, we go to Las Vegas, and so Heidi and I and LA Marzulli drive through the desert on a horse with no name. Okay, and we stopped. We stopped in Little Rachel, and we had a hamburger at the Alien Inn and all that.
Yeah, good burger, by the way. Really good burger.
They're really good. They do have good burger if you're ever out that way, folks. And you better stop because there's nothing else left, okay, after that. But anyway, on the way, there was a cow. There was a dead cow on the road. And Al said, stop. We got to just check this out, make sure it's not a mutilation. We got out. We looked at the cow. And you were looking to see if there was that laser precision it's like a surgery. Let me just say something. Who in the world would be out in the middle of these out in these cow pastures around the world with some type of laser technology cutting up cows? There's nobody doing that. Humans, people on Earth, there's nobody going around doing that in LA.
Nobody's doing it.
Nobody's doing that. So how in the world is this happening?
Well, it's been going on for decades, and that's what's amazing. I mean, it goes back and back and back. Linda Moulton Howe was the one that brought it. That was my first introduction to it. And that goes back into the 90s when she created this documentary film called Strange Harvest. And she really broke the story on it, really in the UFO community. And so she's been a researcher literally for decades. And it's a fantastic film, Strange Harvest. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. But someone is doing this. And of course, you know, I went a little deeper, not deeper than Linda Moulton Howe, but I did a deep dive on my own. Bovine blood that comes from cattle, can be used in human transfusion. So this is all part of the so-called breeding program, which has been going on. Remember, we're on the ninth rung of the ladder of disclosure. So at some point, they'll be talking about, well, what happens if these women are getting pregnant aboard UFOs? I'll tell you right now, that child, that hybrid entity in the womb is taken usually in the third month, in the first trimester, in the third month. It's taken from the woman. There's absolutely nothing. They don't do a D&C. The baby's not there. Yeah, but we saw the baby. We knew the baby was in there. You know, we heard the heartbeat. We know it's there. What happened to it, we don't know. I interviewed a woman recently in Dallas. Gut-wrenching testimony, Pastor. I mean, gut-wrenching testimony. She was abducted and taken from a very early age. She was impregnated 3 times by these entities. And all 3 times they took the child. And later on, after she's married for the second time, rededicated her life to the Lord, the abduction stopped. The whole thing stops because she's now born again and spirit-filled. Now, that's not a 100% guarantee. We've had other stuff. We've heard other things from other people. So, but it's you use the name of Jesus. There's no open doors. You know, you call out and the Lord shows up most of the time.
Right.
However,
and let's just stop there for a second. You're saying that she's abducted and was impregnated. Brett Baer came on Fox News and said, there's reports out that people have been abducted and impregnated by aliens.
Yeah.
My question to you is, these whether they be Nephilim, alien, or man-made Nephilim? Could any of the three be the culprit of what's happening to these people?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing, these are fallen. This is fallen angel stuff, in my opinion.
Right.
This will be like the days of Noah when he returns. That the dragon will come with all signs and lying wonders. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible.
Yeah.
So we're watching all this come down. Daniel, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them, as I mentioned earlier. These hybrids are essentially modern day Nephilim. They look different than the old Nephilim pre-flood, or even the Nephilim after that, which inhabited the land of Canaan, and then moved westward out of that area, out of the Levant into Europe, and then the Mediterranean, and then finally over here. And how do I know that? We've got evidence of it all over the Americas, and that's why I created the 7 films on the Trail of the Nephilim. But these hybrids, back to the lady, the woman, so this is like 20 years later, right?
Okay.
Over 20 years later, and she's awakened one night. Of course, the husband doesn't wake up. That's classic. And she looks over, and there are 3 boys, 3 men standing there that are more alien than human. And she knows instantly that those are her children that they took. And she told me on the record that they looked at her with such hatred, she was taken aback. The hate emanating from them, because see, they're soulless. They don't have souls like we do.
No.
They're in a fixed state. They're in a fixed state, and as Russ Isdar used to say, and they hate us and they hate everything about us. So here they're looking at the one who carried them for 3 months with absolute hate. So we've heard this over and over and over again. I've written about it. I've talked about it for decades, and now Brett Baer is telling us Fox News. So I'm not making this stuff up, folks. You can dismiss it if you want at your own peril at this point.
L.A. Marzulli, folks, you go to his website at www.lamarzulli.net. www.lamarzulli.net. Now, let me tell you something. L.A.'s got the Watcher series. He's got the Trail of the Nephilim series. He's now doing this Counter Move series, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let me just say, if you haven't seen any of these, you need to go UFO Disclosure series. That's what. Okay, you need to do this. I remember watching one of the Watchers where there's a surgery going on.
Yeah,
they're taking a microchip out of a person, and L.A. Marzulli actually is there. He's filming it. He's filming the surgery. I mean, he's got it's unbelievable. Okay. And I thought to myself when I watched that day, I said, this is this got to be a military implant or something, or this is crazy. But when I found out, LA, that Napoleon Bonaparte
had one too.
Napoleon Bonaparte was in the late 1700s, folks, early 1800s. They just checked his remains, and in the back of his brain was an exact implant. It looks exactly like the one in the Watchers, and the bone of the skull had grown over it, so it had been put into him in a young man, maybe this is what gave him this unbelievable ability to conquer and just outsmart everybody. It was just incredible, like he had more technology than anybody. And I thought to myself when I heard that, then when Heidi, we went to digging and we found out there was one down in Peru. Well, we had no idea that LAU were already all over that. So tell us about Bonaparte and tell us about what you found in Peru.
Well, the implant that was found in Bonaparte's skull, I mean, that's very interesting, and it's very similar to the implant that we took out. We are the only Christian team that's ever done that with the late Dr. Roger Lear and my ex-partner in our film series. I say ex because we parted ways amicably. Richard wanted to do Torah codes and find the Ark of the Covenant. I was on the Trail of the Nephilim, but Rick passed away. It'll be 3 years ago this summer. So, it's unbelievable. And Dr. Roger Lear passed away about 6-7 years ago. But so this goes back. This goes way back. And when I started talking about implants, 22 years ago, I was laughed at by my Christian brothers and sisters. They're not laughing
I know you were. I know
they're not laughing anymore. We're the only team that's ever done that. And a filmmaker who's gained a lot of notoriety in the secular world, Richard actually gave him our film from the implant, and he was supposed to, give us kudos on that. He was supposed to. You can hear my voice in his film, and his film's on Netflix, but of course our film isn't. That's how the game is played.
Wow.
Anything with a Christian perspective is immediately eradicated.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're talking about Jesus? Well, we can't have that. Just like how many of us have been deplatformed on Vimeo and on YouTube. I'm still on YouTube because I'm playing the game.
Me too.
I'm playing the game on YouTube.
I got kicked off Vimeo. You got kicked off Vimeo.
I got kicked off Vimeo. And they withheld my $14,000 from me. I had to get a lawyer up and threaten to sue them before they gave me my $14,000.
Yeah, they withheld my $6,000, and the only thing that saved us is Heidi paid it with PayPal, and PayPal then honored the fact that they did not honor their contract and forced them to send it back.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. I mean,
they're criminals.
I've been saying this now for a while. I came up with this 2021 last year. The Bible is going to be declared hate speech.
Yep, absolutely.
Prophecy, Pastor Paul prophecy, Begley prophecy will be declared disinformation.
Yep.
Any talk of the second coming of Jesus Christ will be labeled a conspiracy theory. That is where it's going. Now, look, you can say, well, LA, we don't want to talk about these things at church because blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Don't. A lot of good pastors are standing up and pushing back. Here's what you need to understand, that the church in Germany, when Hitler began to rise to power, did nothing. They did nothing. They never challenged him. They never pushed back. The rest is history. So we're in the same boat. We are. It's 1939 all over again.
It's a replay.
Up, folks. Wake up.
LA also, when you're talking about these, they're shadow banning. They're doing also, in Facebook and Twitter and other places. Maybe Elon Musk will get some freedom there, but he'll have to fight the government to the end, just like all of us. But the Christian narrative, you were on Ancient Alien, I think the first 3 seasons first two seasons. Yeah. And so they had all these experts, and you of course would be one because you wrote the book on the Nephilims, but you were telling the truth. You were telling it from the biblical narrative. And somehow I haven't seen you back, but I see a lot of guys with big hair and stuff, and they're doing a lot of stuff. But and I ain't got nothing against William Henry, because I've actually interviewed William Henry on one of our webinars, and he's a pretty good guy. He's
a smart guy. I like him. Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, but LA, you really were the guy who put that narrative out there, and they had to change the narrative. They've been I don't know 20 years on Ancient Alien or whatever it's been, changing the narrative, and they're going to keep doing it because they can't let the Bible be true, can they?
And this is the problem. And I talked about this. I was just at Prophecy Watchers Conference over the weekend. I spoke really 3 times because the third time was a Q&A, and the place was packed. We had 150 people there. It was just great to see everybody. Endless stream of folks coming by the table, telling me stories, all this kind of stuff. But what I said to the folks on Saturday night, I was the last speaker there. I was sort of like the keynote on Saturday, which is a great honor. And
it is.
The place was packed. And I just said, here's the deal. Your kids, your grandkids are already on board, already have seen Ancient Aliens. It's all over the place. And you're asleep at the wheel. Yeah. And your pastors, for the most part, there are good pastors out there who are addressing it, but for the most part, they're not. So the kids are already on board with this stuff. And, the church is like completely asleep at the wheel. It needs to be addressed, which is why, unlike other Christian ministries, we released our 2 films for free. There is a ton of information in those 2 films. I can't do any more than that. I can't lead people, lead a horse to war, but you can't make them drink. I can't make you go to YouTube and watch our free video, right? No. I can't make you do that. And there's 2 of them on there now. But I guarantee you, when you do, you will be armed and dangerous. You will understand that this is, in my opinion, the coming great deception. This will cause the apostasia. the great falling away that we read
Amen.
about in Second Thessalonians.
The great falling away, the great strong delusion.
This is going to do it.
The,
Going to do it.
Yeah, explain away the rapture, the whole 9 yards. They're going to do everything they can to deceive
Yep.
people.
Explain away the rapture. That's what this will be used for.
Yep.
That when we go up, they show up. We go up, they come down.
Yep.
That's how that's going to work.
And just before that happens, LA, you just prophesied, they're going to, the Bible will be literally scrubbed from the internet. Okay. It will not be there. So you better get
it's already happening. Look at what's going on in Finland, where the pastor stood up and spoke against the LGBTQ ABC, because you can't do that. You know, how dare you? You know, and it's like they are forcing the whole, this is the spirit of Baphomet. Let me just say something about the whole transgender thing. Folks, before you snub your nose and go, oh, these people are just blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something. There is a spirit that's pushing and driving the narrative. And that spirit is very powerful. And that is the spirit of our age. And it's the Baphomet spirit. Baphomet is the goat's head. It's a chimera. It's half man. It's half woman, half animal, half human. That's exactly where we are. It's exactly where we are. This is the spirit of the age. But
we're definitely in the last days. L.A. Marzulli is with us, folks. Again, he has these 2 films, UFO Disclosed, free films that are over at his YouTube channel. Right there, he's holding it up. You can go watch those for free. Then you'll want the rest of the series. He'll have it. He has it for you right there on the screen, lamarzulli.net. And get the Watcher series and get the Nephilim, the Trail of the Nephilims. And I'm seriously, get these, because they will help understand. I've been trying literally for 12 years to the seed war. And really, LA, you're the one who woke me up to the seed war. Because I always wondered as a kid, well, where did the Goliath come from? You know, well, where did the giants go? And then when you showed us in Genesis 6, I began to open my eyes and pray, and the Lord said, exactly, and they're coming back. And LA,
coming back.
Right. I interviewed you on television once about the Kandahar giant, and it blew up. People just love this television show. We've actually aired it on television twice, just because it was just on demand. It's just too high. Tell us a little bit about the Kandahar giant. But is that the beginning of they show up? I'm not talking about the ones coming down. I'm talking about the ones crawling out of the caves or wherever. Tell us about the Kandahar giant.
Well, I mean, I think there is a underground network of caves. I mean, there's no doubt about that. The Kandahar giant in the Kandahar province of Afghanistan, minimum 12 feet tall. The thing is, we don't know how old it was. In other words, it could have escaped the land of Canaan during the conquest of Joshua 3,500 years ago.
What? Are you serious?
Absolutely. In other words, that thing could have been alive for thousands of years, because it's not immortal, but it's angelic DNA with human DNA.
Yeah.
So it's got that immortal gene in it.
Yes, it does.
So the thing stunk. The stench of this thing was, and this is what the shooter said. Now, I've never been around rotting corpses. I don't want to be around rotting corpses, but that's what he said it was like. This guy was a mercenary. That's what he was doing on patrol. He was a mercenary, and he was there. So he smelled rotting corpses. He knows what that stench is like. It'll almost make you vomit, apparently. And this thing, after they killed it, was so powerful. The stench was so overcoming that some of the guys were throwing up, because it was just, it was unbelievable. And this is conjecture on my part, but it makes us wonder. We know that there was a stele found on the north coast of Africa, and attributed to the Phoenicians, and it was talked about by Procopius. So this goes back a long time. And that stele said, "We are those who fled from the face of Joshua, the robber, the son of Nun." What is that stele doing on the north coast of Africa?
That's crazy.
That's our point. There was a Western migration. There was, and not only Western, some of them went out the Red Sea into the Pacific Ocean, and then came across to Paracas, Peru, we believe. So, I mean, this is it's just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Here's a comment by Jess. Paul, please, if you haven't already told L.A. Marzulli about the brain chips in Napoleon, and tell him. Well, we did. L.A. knows about it. And LA now, there's this elongated skull in Peru that has a chip. Is that right? Tell us about it. You've been down there, and you can tell us all about how this skull is made. Show the folks.
Well, here's one of the Paracas skulls, okay? And the first thing let's notice is this, that the eyes, the orbits, okay, let me hold it up right next to me.
We can see it great. Yeah.
Okay, so the orbits are 25 to 30% larger than a normal human being.
That's
The
huge.
orbits are 25% to 30% larger. The pupillary distance, which should be 65 millimeters, is much less, is about 45 millimeters. Here's my pupil here, right? And there's my pupil on the other side. Mine are about 65 millimeters. These are much closer together, which means that more than likely that this entity could see in the dark. This entity had night vision. Yeah, and the other thing is that when we were down there with Tim Alberino in 2019, one of the archaeologists there took us way out into the Paracas Reserve. I had never been there before. It's carefully guarded. You got to have a permit to go in. So the archaeologist enabled us to get in there. So we're sitting there, and he took us to a Paracas dwelling, 3,500, about 3,000 years old, still in existence. Now, it had been covered with sand. It was a chimney of rock that went down into the earth. And I asked him, I said, when you guys explored down there, did you ever see evidence of torchlight? He said, no. Well, how did they see? We don't know. Well, all you needed to do is take one of these skulls to an optometrist. That's what we did. And you would have been told that they might have had night vision. One of the Nephilim tribes in the Levant, listed in our Bibles, is called the Horites. And the Horites translates cave dwellers. So these are sutures in the skull right here.
I see those.
There are the sutures, okay?
Yeah.
Now, it should have a suture from here going straight back. It doesn't.
That's what we have.
Yeah, we have, and that suture would split the parietal, which is, there should be a suture from here going straight back like this. It's not there, and it would split the parietal plates in two. Well, it's not there.
No,
it's not there at all. All right. Okay. You'll also notice that the jaw is incredibly robust for the skull, incredibly robust. You'll also know that the zygomatic arch right here, very, very robust, extremely robust right in here. Yeah. So in our film, which you can go to if you want to buy the hard copy, DNA, the final results, go to lamarzulli.net. If you want to stream it, and you can get instant gratification, that's streaming.lamarzulli.net. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. The Watcher series, I'm a Trail of a Nephilim series is all there. This is the result from our work with our anthropologist on our team, Rick Woodward. It was his discovery of the placement of the foramen magnum. No one else noticed this.
No.
People stood up and go, well, I kind of knew about that, blah, blah. Yeah, but you didn't say anything about it. Rick Woodward put it on the map. This is the foramen magnum. Now, the white stuff around it is where Joe Taylor, who molded this skull, right, put the clay in so you could insert a dowel. That's what this is for. But the actual foramen magnum, you can see it right there. There's the outline of it.
Yeah.
Get this in the camera. There's the outline of it. You can see it right there. So that's the foramen magnum. Well, that foramen magnum is placed as far back in the back of a skull.
Yeah, it's in the back of the skull.
If it's any further back, it's outside the skull.
Right.
Where it is. That foramen magnum should be, drum roll please, right about here.
There, in the center of the skull.
Center. It's not.
That's where ours.
You cannot move that through cranial deformation, cranial headboarding.
Oh.
So this is genetic, and in our film, which is on streaming.lamarzulli.net, DNA, the final results, we've got doctors, surgeons, medical experts, chiropractors, optometrists. It's a multidiscipline approach to what these things are. They are not. We got one doctor who's holding the skull and goes, LA, I've been up all night thinking about this. Whatever this is not human. And all of them say that this is something that is genetic. So, we're the only Christian team who's ever gone down there, done the work. I'd like to thank our sponsors if they're watching, because they gave us a lot of money to be able to go to the labs and get the DNA. But here's the deal. The labs now the labs in America won't touch us. If they hear Paracas skulls, L.A. Marzulli, they'll just say no. Yeah,
we're they don't want to talk to you. They don't even talk to you.
And there's a reason for it, because what we showed them, our DNA showed that this entity that you see here, okay, first of all, is genetic. Second of all, the mitochondrial DNA, which comes from the female line, is not it's not found in the Americas. It's found in the Middle East or Europe. That rewrites history, and they don't like that.
Folks, go to lamarzulli.com. You can see it on the screen. lamarzulli.net, www.lamarzulli.net. Check out all of his information. And the reason I'm doing this, folks, because the disclosure and the deception and the delusion we're so close now to the rapture of the church that you got to hear me. They are already in process of deceiving. They've got representatives in the United Nations already to, when the aliens arrive, who is going to interface with them. We're seeing almost every few months, Fox News, either Tucker Carlson, and now you got Brett Baer, I guess, trying to make it even more credible. More and more disclosure. Avi Loeb, I know you know who he is, Harvard professor. I interviewed him on a couple of my webinars. I'm going to probably do another. We're going to have another webinar, guys, coming up this fall, which L.A. Marzulli will be absolutely the keynote guy, called Aliens and Fallen Angels. Okay, that's the title of it. All right. And L.A. Marzulli, I haven't even asked him yet, but now I'm asking him. But we'll let him know. Okay, so he's got to be in it. All right. But Avi Loeb's going to be in it too. I got to be fair. Okay. So I'm going to let Avi speak. Now, what Avi Loeb says, and he's a Harvard professor, is that when that Uma thing went flying by, that it was actually not a rock. It was interstellar. So it didn't come from our solar system. And that it was actually a communicating ship of some sort with Earth. And maybe in preparation for what is coming. What's your thoughts on what he's talking about on that, LA?
Well, I mean, I'll be at the Vernal, Utah UFO Disclosure Symposium this weekend.
Okay.
I'm the only Christian speaker. I speak on Sunday. It's in Vernal, Utah. The website is UFO Disclosure Symposium, UFODisclosureSymposium.com. It's a lot to write, but that's what it is. And it's in Vernal, Utah, and I'll be speaking on Sunday. I'm part of a panel thing. They're going to show allegedly clips that no one's ever seen before. Haim Massam will be there. J. Allen Hynek Jr. will be there. There's some heavyweights that are showing up. Yeah, for this thing, and I'm honored to be there. But I'll be presenting a different angle, and my presentation on Sunday will say, are we looking at interdimensional entities or extraterrestrial entities? And I'll be giving both sides of the story, both quotes. And you've heard me talk about this, Paul, where I've just said, is this are we in some sort of a holographic universe? No one knows what this is. Nobody knows what this is or where we are in it. End of story. I mean, if the United States of America is analogous to the universe, it's planet Earth in Washington, D.C., let's hope not. Los Angeles, Oklahoma City, we don't know. We have no idea where we are in this thing. All I know is that the biblical prophetic narrative is true. And when our Father God tells us that, I'm going to just roll up this thing like a scroll and create a new heaven and earth, that's not, we're not looking at metaphor. That's what he's just going to roll up the thing. But that creates a whole set of problems and this is why they hate the Bible. Because, that's just nonsense. How can he possibly roll up a scroll? Well, how can he possibly create a human being in the image and likeness of God? And where does consciousness reside? No one knows where you reside or I reside. I'm in this little biological suit.
I'm in
Marzulli, it works pretty good. Whee! Right? I mean, it does. I can gesticulate till the cows come home, especially if I'm Italian. But the bottom line is this, it's like no one knows where consciousness resides. All we know is that it interfaces with this three-dimensional biological bodysuit that we find ourselves in. I don't have to think about breathing. I don't have to worry about my heart. My eyes blink automatically. It all happens automatically. When I'm walking, I don't think ready, left foot, and go. I just walk, right? If I'm exercising or running or throwing a ball or skiing down a mountain. I'm just in the groove. I'm just skiing down the mountain like this with a big grin on my face because it's my most favorite thing to do. I'm free at last, but I am. But no one knows how it works. Nobody knows, but we do. We know that we're fearfully and wonderfully created in the image and likeness of God, that we have a soul, we have a spirit, and we have a body, soul, and spirit. And our spirits are dead until we come across the line and realize and look at Father God and go, I believe in your Son. He's the one that was sent. I believe in him, and
Amen.
that he died on Calvary, and that his death on Calvary, if I just believe in those two things, I can have eternal life. Your spirit now will come in and begin to teach me all things. And that's what's happened 42 years ago for me, and it's ongoing, and I love it.
Amen. And LA, let me just say that you and I, and we're not bragging, folks, but there's very few Christians that are willing to go into the secular world to share the message and stand toe to toe. You've been on Coast to Coast many times. I've been on it, I think 3 or 4 times. I can't remember, but we're not afraid to go on secular radio, secular television.
Right.
It don't matter what it is. And to be able to say, and like you're speaking in a secular UFO conference, and you're the only Christian speaker there, and
Right.
so that to me that's a great honor that you're going. Thank God we've got someone representing our side of it to help the folks that are sitting there who need to hear another narrative. They need to know that, wait a minute, I'm starting to try to understand this UFO thing, and it's actually in the Bible. The Bible actually talks about these fallen angels and aliens and Nephilim and all of this. So giants and the watchers, it's all in the Bible. So Ellie, I want to thank you for doing that, because that is so big, and it is going into the secular world. If we don't go, who will? Now we're having a harder time going into the church. I mean, it's hard to get in the church telling this message. Thank God you can get into the secular world and do it.
Amen to that. And, it's like we'll be flying out on Friday. I think Friday night is just kind of a meet and greet thing. I'm not exactly sure, but Saturday, pretty much all day. And that's where they're going to show the 2 clips. I'll be on one of the panels discussing what we're seeing. And then Sunday morning, I come right after Jaime Maussan. I know Jaime. We interviewed him in our Watches series. Jaime is one of the world's leading experts in the phenomena. He's got hours and hours and hours of footage that his team, it's the longest running show on Telemundo as far as, UFOs and talk. He's been on there for a long time. So it'd be great to see Jaime again and talk shop with him and discuss some things. But I'll be presenting right after Jaime, and I'll be presenting the Christian paradigm without sounding like a Christian. So that's,
you're going to do it very, very, very stealth.
You got to do it tactfully.
Yeah,
you can't get in there and start thumping the Bible. The people would just go quick and walk away.
You're going to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove.
Amen.
And the Bible says a wise man winneth souls. And the only way you can do that, folks, you got to be able to get, you got to do like Jesus. You kind of leave the Sanhedrin sitting in a corner, and you go and sit down with the publicans and the sinners. And you have a glass of wine with them, and you start to talk to them. That's what Jesus did. And he started talking to them. And next thing you know, they were following him to find out how they could have eternal life. Now, and they called him a wine bibber and a gluttonous man. But the truth is, he was just actually being cordial and sharing with them. Now, if we're going to get these people who don't know Jesus to Jesus, we've got to go to where they're at. And that means in every media. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, LA. This microchip that was in the Watchers, and this microchip that they took out of the skull of Napoleon, and this microchip that was down in Paracas, Peru, that was in one of these elongated skulls. This is fallen angel technology, I would say. And if it is, does that mean that the fallen angels have taught us the computer chip? Is all this computer internet, is this actually fallen angel technology to help?
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of conjecture. There was a man who wrote a book. His name was Philip Corso, Colonel Philip Corso, and he talked about taking some of the debris and distributing the debris from these crashed UFOs to different different sectors in the private sector, or different companies in the private sector to back engineer and stuff like that. Whether that's true or not, just some people will say, well, the computer chip, blah, 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 blah. But, and yes and no. But, according to Corso, the computer chip, night vision, in other words, there was a jump start. They had some of the technology and they began to back engineer things, which led to the invention. Because what you look at is everything just explodes from 47 when the Roswell crash happened.
Yeah.
It just like, boom, it explodes. So is it fallen angel technology, Nephilim? I don't know. That would be conjecture. People who were involved, let's say, in the laser will say, no, this is how it happened, blah, blah, blah. But other people say, no, some of this stuff was leached out to the government. It was very compartmentalized, and then it went into the public sector. I mean, I don't have the answers to everything. Right. But I do know this, that Bob Lazar in the 90s talked about back engineering element 115, and that was the element that was used in the propulsion system of the discs, which was a gravity wave, which created a gravity wave. So the gravity wave is here, the craft is here, and the gravity wave pulls the craft so that there's no propulsion. It's bending space and time as we know it, which is why it can make right angle turns and just zip away at 20,000 miles an hour, and no one feels anything because you're bending space and time. So you're not moving. It doesn't feel like you're moving because you're not. You're not moving. You're moving through space and time, but that gravity wave is bending space and time.
You're like in a car. The car is doing 70 miles an hour, but you're in the car, so you don't feel like you're going 70, but you are.
But you are.
So it's bending time and space and moving it all at the same time.
Yeah, or like a fly, or a fly is in the car. Why doesn't the fly go slamming back into the back of the windshield? He doesn't because we're going 70, the car's going 70, but we're not going 70 and 70. Right. Very similar to that. Yeah.
But here's the one thing that I can't explain. But if you lock up or you're in a rear or a collision, you will go flying forward.
You will go flying forward.
But you don't go flying back as you're traveling. It's just interesting. I need Einstein to help me with this. L.A. Marzulli, go to www.lamarzulli.net. That's www.lamarzulli.net. Guys, I do have some info, breaking, actually an update. The Texas school shooting down at the Robb Elementary School. The numbers have changed. There's 18 dead elementary students now and 3 adults. And also the shooter is dead. And those numbers are still fluid. They could still change. Now, why did this kid who was going to a high school 85 miles away, why did he drive all the way there, go in and kill all these innocent kids? If you don't think there's a devil loose, guys, I don't know. I mean,
again,
LA is the demons is this part? Remember when Russ Dizdar talked about the end days, there'd be the slaughter. There'd be the slaughter of the innocent. We see this happening a lot of times, these school shootings. It's strange.
Just like the VTech shooter. I mean, this guy, was he a program multiple, as Russ Dizdar would say? We don't know. And the news, you never really get the inside story. They'll just, it's always a managed agenda. So, who can believe what the media is going to tell us about this guy? But probably by 24 hours later, we'll have some sort of a profile on who this guy was. Is there a manifesto? Is he some sort of a right-wing nutcase? Is he, who knows? We don't know what he is. Right. We don't know what he is. But it's an incredibly cowardly, evil act. And, it's
sad, but
my heart grieves for the parents and the grandparents. That's it's gut-wrenching, just gut-wrenching. And it's wrong on every single level. And the question is, let's not politicize this.
Right.
Talking about the Second Amendment, which is what they'll do.
That's what they'll do.
They'll politicize this whole thing. If they're like at the one recent shooting where the security guard was killed. Well, he was killed because the guy had tactical armor on. So,
right.
The crazies are upping their ante.
They're taking it to another level, and maybe that's where the program shooting.
Here's the deal: you can have all the gun control in the world. You can legislate it till the cows come home. It's not going to stop this. Somebody wants to do a heinous act like this, they're going to find a way to do it.
What's really weird about the kid that, over in Buffalo, New York, again, he was 18 also.
Yeah.
And he drove, I don't know, 2 hours to get there.
Yeah. Right.
And he was definitely a right wing way. I mean, I'm talking about a just absolutely gone nut. But he had at 18, who trained him on tactical gear and military positioning?
How did that happen?
How did he get that? How did he get to that level? So you start thinking about these program shooters as a very possible thing. And in the book Black Awakening by Russ Disdar,
Yeah,
brings it out. He really does. That's why we miss him. LA, tell us one more time. We're going to go to your website, lamarzulli.net. Everybody go there right now, www.lamarzulli.net. And when you go, you will have to get something. Okay, so just do it. Okay. Now, when you go to if you go to his YouTube channel, you can watch that film for free. And two films, UFO Disclosure. You can get that. You can watch that for free, and then you can get the rest of them at his website. Okay, in your leisure and as you're doing it once a month or whatever you want to do, just keep walking up the ladder. LA, when will I see you again besides on video? Are we going to be in a conference ever again?
No, I mean, here the Watchman is basically folded. I mean, he's just doing stuff with Jamie Walden, and that's a really great effort. But he's not going to put in any more conferences. So, I don't know.
If I get to throw another one again, if I think there's enough people traveling, it's not cheap to pull these off. No,
I know it's not. And that's the thing. Prophecy Watchers really did a bang up job. There were 850 people there. I think 24 different speakers.
Yeah,
it was a great weekend. Really great weekend.
It's tough to pull those off, but some of the older guys have still got the ability to do it. So maybe we'll be able to do it again. I know we'll get together again. Okay, I definitely. If anything, I'm going to come to see you out there in California. So,
God bless. You're always welcome. You know that.
I know that. And you're welcome in my place also. So,
amen,
brother. Amen. Tell Peggy, give her our love. We love you, LA.
Yep. LA Marzulli. Take care.
All right. We'll talk again soon. Okay. LA Marzulli, folks. I tell you, I really, really, I love him. I love the man. He's always on top of his game. And he really does care about people. And it's really interesting. He really does give you, and we've used him in webinars before. And our next webinar, which is down the road, we'll give you a date on that one. That's coming down the road in the fall, but it's going to be called Aliens and Fallen Angels. Okay. Aliens/Fallen Angels. What does it mean? Give us the best experts. Well, of course, L.A. Marzulli will be in that crowd. Okay. And some others, and some you've never heard of before, or we've never had before. You've probably heard of experts. So it's coming from different directions. Now let's take a look at the shooting for a moment, guys, because it is huge and it is awful. Okay, this shooting that has taken place is a terrible situation, but it has happened, and it's 18 are now dead. 18 children are now dead. And wow, it's pitiful. Okay, it's really pitiful. Let me go right now and get you the info that we have on it right to the minute. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Give me 1 second. I think I'll have it. I want to update it right to the minute. They're saying 18 and 3. Some are still reporting the 14. That means they're a little behind. 1 second. I'll get us all up to speed. We need to pray for these parents. We really do need to pray for the parents. Here we go. Associated Press is now reporting that the Texas school shooting. Let me enlarge my screen here. Okay. 1 second, everybody. 1 second. Okay. The Texas school shooting kills 18 children and 3 adults. This is a horrific situation that has happened again. And there's there's absolutely nothing good that's going to come out of this. Nothing good at all. It's just pitiful that we're living in a time that this is the kind of stuff that's going on in these last days. But it's exactly what's happening. And the Bible tells us this would happen, that we would see this type of stuff. Texas school shooting, 18 children dead, 3 adults dead. The shooter is dead. And here's what the latest article just came out 7 minutes ago. In Uvalde, and I don't know how to pronounce the city, but out of Texas, an 18-year-old gunman has opened fire this afternoon at a Texas elementary school, killing at least 18 of these elementary children. And the gunman is also dead. The death toll is also, there's 3 adults, according to State Senator Roland Gutierrez, who said he was briefed by the state police on the fatalities, but it was not immediately clear whether the number included the assailant or not. It was the deadliest shooting. So they're saying 18 children, 3 adults, but we don't know if the shooter's included in that number. It's the deadliest school shooting in the United States since the gunman killed 20 elementary children and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, almost 10 years ago. And it came just 10 days after a gunman in a body armor killed 10 shoppers. And actually, it was 12 shoppers and 1 security guard at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, in what authorities say was a absolute racist attack. Federal law enforcement officials said that the death toll was expected to rise in Texas. They spoke on condition, of course, of anonymity, because they are not authorized to reveal or release these investigative details. The gunman entered Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, with a handgun and possibly a rifle. According to Governor Greg Abbott, officials did not immediately reveal the motive, but the governor identified the assailant as Salvador Ramos. Salvador Ramos. And he was a resident of a very heavily Latino community about 85 miles away. This is an 18-year-old young man by the name of Salvador Ramos. Why would an 18-year-old Latino man drive 85 miles to an elementary school to kill 18 kids and 3 adults? And there may be more dead than that. We know multiple others are injured. The Border Patrol agent, who was nearby when the shooting began, rushed into the school without waiting for backup and shot and killed the gunman. This is a Border Patrol. For once, we need to give some credit to the Border Patrol, who are trying to protect our border in an almost impossible situation. This guy run into the line of fire by himself with no backup and shot and killed the gunman, who was behind a barricade, according to law enforcement officials speaking on anonymity, of course. And the agent was wounded because he shot him too, but he was able to walk out of the school. Governor Abbott said the shooter was likely killed by police officers, but the events were still being investigated. The school district police chief said that the attacker acted alone. The massacre of young children was another gruesome moment for a country scarred by an almost ceaseless stirring of mass killings in churches, schools, and in stores. And the prospects for any reform, well, I don't know. What reform do you want? Put a gun in everybody's hand, maybe, to protect ourselves from these idiots? That might be the best. But what they're saying is, again, and of course, this is written by the Associated Press, they're saying that, something's got to be done. Well, what needs to be done is the border needs to be secure. That's one thing. And number 2, people have got to have a right to protect themselves. The Second Amendment has to remain there. I mean, it just has to. So we're really we're heartbroken by this whole thing. Our prayers are going out to everybody right now, and I'm going to play one song and just update this one more time and come back to you. And boy, we need to recognize what's happening. We need to give this world back to God, because it's bad.
Have you looked around? Have you heard the sound of mama's crying? Or do you turn away when you see the face of the innocent dying? In these darkest days, are you not afraid that it's too late? You gotta get down on your knees, believe, fold your hands and beg and plead. You gotta keep praying. You gotta cry, rain, tears of pain, pound the floor and scream his name, because we're still worth saving. Can't go on like this and live like this. We can't love like this. Give this world back to God. Have you lost your love? Feel like giving up? Your heart been broken? Are your kids okay? Do they come home safe? Do you lie there hoping? You can make a wish, you can knock on wood, oh, it won't do you no good. You gotta get down on your knees, believe, fold your hands and beg and plead. You gotta keep on praying. You gotta cry, rain, tears of pain, pound the floor and scream his name, because we're still worth saving. We can't go on like this and live like this. We can't love like this. Give this world back to God. You gotta get down on your knees, believe, fold your hands and beg and plead, and keep on praying. You gotta cry, rain, tears of pain, pound the floor and scream his name, because we're still worth saving. Can't go on like this and live like this. We can't love like this. You can hope the best, make a wish. The only answer is give this world back to God. Oh, give it back. Hey!
really hard to make sense of this, folks. You know, when you're listening to the words of that song, Give This World Back to God, it really, really rings home, doesn't it? It really does. 18 children are dead. 3 adults are dead. The gunman is dead. And there may be more children dead. We really don't know yet. It's still a very fluid situation. So we're praying for everybody down there at the Robb Elementary School down there in Texas. And we're praying. And we're really praying. There's a devil loose. This is why we did the webinar, Overcoming Evil. This is why we keep telling you, preaching to you, teaching you Psalms 91. Okay, to pray protection over yourselves and your family, your children, your grandchildren, your friends, and you know those that are close to you. Get them under the covering. Get them under the covering. Guys, have a great evening tonight. I'm very sorry about this. I will be back tomorrow doing some YouTube videos in the morning, and I will do a live show from the studios here at the Salvation Station tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. I hope you've enjoyed today's programming. Heidi did a great Bible study this evening. I had a wonderful show with Rabbi Yehuda Glick live from Jerusalem, and we had a great special tonight live from Malibu, California, L.A. Marzulli. So it was, but we're really sad about the shooting in Texas. God bless all of you. Good night, everyone.